Yay! So I did the countdown and I wasn't live yet. That was hilarious. Welcome everybody to your Global GEG Community of Educators. We are so excited to talk about all things Wakelet and the new upcoming Wakelet Challenge. And sorry, I'm going to pause my YouTube. We're with the amazing Tejas with Wakelet. He is a business director for Wakelet and an expert in everything. But first of all, I'd like my colleagues Reshma and Gerardo to explain a little bit more about Global GEG.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy, and welcome, Tejas. And welcome all of you, those who are watching us live or everyone who would be catching up on this session after your work hours. And happy Valentine's Day to all of you. So we are a global team. We are a global GEG team of voluntary educators and leaders from all around the world. So we come together to empower, inspire schools, educational institutes, communities, and people like you and me just to learn something new that is going on in EdTech, as well as to strengthen our learning, creativity, and help us continuously grow. So I'm excited for today's session. So Gerardo?
Thanks. I am really happy to be here with you. Yes, it's a great honor to be your host in Global Now. And I want to take the opportunity for invite you to the next event that we are holding in Global in partnership with all GEGs in Mexico. We are leading the fifth international marathon for Google Workspace for education, and you are invited next week, 21 to 26 in February, and I will give you we will give you the link to register in um, in a comment for you. So if you are interested, you can register to the marathon and see the link in the comments, please. You will be welcome, and I think you will enjoy the event. Thanks, and now we have
Yay! And Gerardo, thanks you for sharing that. I put a link to his first session next week, but this is a massive undertaking on Gerardo's part with his entire community. But you can't miss. There's session after session for an entire week, and so that link is in the chat. Yay! Well, thank you. And so I'm going to put up Tejas' screen, and then Tejas just give us a shout out, and we'll pop back on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacy. Thank you, Gerardo and Reshma. Really appreciate all of you having me on here. And, a big thank you to Abid as well and Stephanie Howell for helping organize this event. All great GEG leads, that are such a pleasure to work with every time we try and have an event from Wakelet's end. So today is, a very special event or sort of webinar that I've been looking forward to for quite some time because, we're able to actually showcase to you a very special sort of campaign or challenge that we've organized with Google for Education, as you can see on my screen here. But before I go into the details of it, I also want to tell you a few reasons for why we did this. So, of course, as you all know, sustainability is a massive issue around the world. There's loads of, generalized issues like lack of sustainable energy, lack of clean cities that are leading to a lot of detrimental effects of the climate. Obviously with COP26 happening last year, and of course, coming off the back of a very successful COP, we still feel that us as a company or a startup also has a big responsibility towards this cause of creating a more sustainable world, especially because we're in education. And so this sort of prompted us to create the Svg Trailblazer Challenge. Now, we've always, as a team, been super passionate about everything sustainability. And in this particular regard, we're super excited to actually bring to you along with the Google for Education team, this amazing challenge that, really encapsulates and captures the true essence of, a child's creativity, their problem-solving capabilities, and decision-making capabilities as well, by the fact of, them answering certain critical questions around the SDG topics. So we've picked 3 topics for this particular challenge, around which we've built certain activities for teachers to do with their children. So the 3 topics are sustainable cities and communities, zero hunger, and affordable and clean energy. Now, all 3 topics are, part of the SDG topics that have been clearly outlined by the UN. And we've not picked these 3 for any particular reason. We just felt that us as a team connected with it deeply, and we thought it would also inspire a global community of educators to really take part and have their, young learners contribute their ideas to. So a lot of you probably at this point are thinking to yourselves, that's great, Tejas, super exciting. There's a lot of curricular, almost, narratives in this, because, some of the first feedback points we had is that a lot of educators were thrilled that this challenge played into their curricula. For the first time, they could do something with, the startup that they love, which is Wakelet, or the platform that they love, Wakelet and Google for Education, and actually have it directly impact their curricula. But you're probably thinking, how do we take part, and what are the necessities or preconditions for you to be able to take part with your students? Well, good news for all of you. You don't need any particular precondition to take part. All you really need is a Wakelet account. And if you're a Google educator, which I'm sure all of you are, a Google Classroom account where you sort of have all of your students in there. So I'm going to open up the how to enter challenge so I can take you through all of the steps nice and easy. So we built this challenge, of course, keeping in mind that your students can partake and contribute their ideas to how they would solve these different issues. So each issue, so for example, sustainable cities and communities, defines a set of questions that need to be answered. And these questions will help build future cities and communities. And what we want to do via this challenge is actually communicate this topic to the classroom or to your learners. So teachers would essentially have to, communicate all of this information or communicate that collection, and then create a collaborative environment within which they can have all of their students add in their thoughts and opinions, and then showcase it in a visual way. So what better platform to do it than on Wakelet, right? Because that's what we do. But to get started, we thought it'd be a great idea to actually include Wakelet student accounts. So if you all remember, we released student accounts with Google Classroom several months ago. I think if I look back now, it's probably been 8 or 9 months. And student accounts is this unique experience you get on wakelet.com, where you're able to import all of your students from Google Classroom into Wakelet in a safe and secure environment. So what this means is your students cannot access features on the website like search. They are contained in an environment where you, the teacher, can control certain permissions and restrict their access to very particular collections. And it also allows for students under the age of 13 to be able to take part and contribute and collaborate on these collections, which is what we want to do, right? We want to sort of create an inclusive environment. So the first step to actually taking part in this challenge will be to create your Wakelet student accounts. And you'll do this by importing a class from Google Classroom straight inside of Wakelet. And if you're not sure on how to do this, and if you're completely new to Wakelet, we've hyperlinked a video over here in this collection where you can click through and watch a very quick 2-minute video on how you can do this. It's super simple to do. Unfortunately, I don't have a Google Classroom account right now, or a teacher Google Classroom account, so I can't really demo importing students from Google Classroom into Wakelet, into the Wakelet student account setup. But if you have any problem at this stage, you can always get in touch with us, and we will find a solution for you as soon as possible. And once you create or import all of your students into, into your Wakelet student accounts area, you can then have them complete one of the challenges or all of the challenges. We've actually created different tiers or different levels, to the SCG challenge to motivate and inspire student participation. So we've got the SCG hero level, the SCG legend level, and the SCG Trailblazer level. So depending on the amount of entries your students go for, we hope to be able to incentivize and give you certain virtual swag packs to showcase, the effort and time your learners have put into this challenge. So sorry for going off the layout. Let me get back to the steps. So step number 2, you choose a topic, or you choose all 3 topics. So we've got sustainable cities and communities, zero hunger, and clean energy. You then can either share one of these topics or all 3 topics into your student account area and have all of your students collaborate and give their opinions on these particular topic areas. And soon I'll also show you an example of what this may look like. And something that we also want to sort of mention over here is, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, Tejas, that's great. We've imported all of our students. We have chosen our Scg Trailblazer challenge. So let's say you've chosen sustainable cities and communities, but how do we actually get them to express themselves in the best way possible? Well, there's a few ways in which you can do this. You can have your students actually create Wakelet collections inside of your student accounts area. You can also get them to answer, some of these very important questions using Google Docs or Google Slides, or anything Google, to be honest. We've actually had the most recent entry, which came from an Indian school. Shout out to Sunbeam, where we've had 250 students take part, and a lot of the entries were through Wakelet collections, notes, and Google Drive files, which is great. You can actually have your students create these documents and submit them in. And once your students have created all of these amazing, they've articulated their thoughts and ideas on, the future of cities or sustainable cities, you can then collect all of their collections or all of their Google Docs or slides, whichever format that they opt to do it in, inside of one master Wakelet collection. And then all we ask of you is to submit this master Wakelet collection, which is essentially a collection of all of your students' answers to these SDG topics inside of a Google form. And we've also attached the Google form in this how to enter collection. So all you do is click on this hyperlink and it will direct you to the Google form. I can also show it to you right now, where all you need to do is enter your name, your email, and then the master collection. So this collection will essentially be all of your students' work, all of your learners' work in one collection. And that's what you'd showcase to us. This is just a nice way for us to be further inspired by all of your students' work, and also send across, the swag pack that truly sort of communicates the amount of entries that you and your students have communicated in this. And once you've sort of done that, as I mentioned, we'll send across the certificates, we'll send across the virtual swag pack. You can go ahead and share it across social media, tag us, let us know what you think about the challenge, because we're constantly trying to improve everything we do over here and make these challenges better and more meaningful to you and your learners. And something that we should also mention is that we're going to be doing certificates not just for teachers but for all your learners as well. And it's a great opportunity for your learners and also for yourselves as teachers to gain some good PD points. We've got a few frequently asked questions that we've had from previous webinars, so I'd also like to go over them right now. Is there a deadline for a challenge? Yes. So the challenge ends on Thursday, the 31st of March, which is the end of next month. So realistically, you've got a month and a half to do all of these challenges with your students. And in regards to how old your students can be to enter the challenge, there's no age group as of now. Students can be of any age to enter the challenge because of the fact that we have fully integrated student accounts into the platform where your teacher can control the environment in which students partake and interact with the platform. And another issue that we have faced, but not too much, and hopefully we won't have it again too much going forward, is how can you import your students, or why you can't import your students. But the first question with how you can import your students, as I mentioned, in the how-to collection, we have hyperlinked the video in the word here. And in regards to if you're struggling importing your students, please get in touch with support@wakelet.com, and we will do everything we can to fix your issue as soon as possible. So what counts as an entry? Each student can create up to 3 collections, and 1 collection is an entry. And it doesn't need to be Wakelet collections. Like I said, it can also be a Google Doc. It could be a Google slide. So each answer would essentially count as an entry. So if one of your students decides to, articulate themselves and express themselves on the Sustainable Cities and Communities collection or topic and the Zero Hunger topic, those will count as 2 entries, regardless of whether they do it through a Wakelet collection or a Google slide. As long as they express themselves and their opinions on those topics, which is why we've built this challenge, those will count as entries. And I've already covered how students can enter the challenge. And if you have any other questions, obviously, please get in touch with us. We've also left sort of very useful pro tips for you for how you can import your students from Google Classroom to Wakelet. And we've also gone a step further, on the back of some of the feedback that we've been having from the challenge, and made it even more simpler. So let's have a look at the Sustainable Cities and Communities challenge. So this is one of my favorite challenges. It really, I think, demands students or learners to be creative and to really think about, what cities of the future will look and feel like, especially for them to be more sustainable. And if I scroll down, you'll see there's a bunch of information pertaining to, this topic of sustainable cities and communities. We've also got a video over here of me talking you through the challenge, a very cool gift that Els added, hopefully inspires all of your learners. And then you've got a bunch of, different topics that we've essentially, or different topic areas that we've defined that can inspire your students. So sustainable housing, public transport, hospitals, just starting points for them when they're creating their own cities or their dream sustainable cities. And I must say, we've had some really, really inspiring entries to this already. And I'm very, very excited to see how all of your learners will take part and speak about their thoughts for what future sustainable cities and communities will look like. Because on the back of this, obviously, what we're hoping will happen is they're all inspired by this newfound empathy and awareness for sustainability and what it may look like in the future, and it really impacts all of their actions going forward. and I mentioned earlier that we've gone ahead and made it a step easier for all of you. And what I meant by that is we've actually created a template for sustainable cities and communities. And going forward, we will continue creating templates for the other topic areas as well. But we wanted to create a template for sustainable cities and communities so that you could use this template, this collection, copy it into your student accounts area, or if you don't have, or if you're not wanting to use student accounts, you could copy it and share it with your students and ask them to create or answer these questions in the manner that I mentioned before. So they can create their own Wakelet collections. They can create, answer these questions using Google Docs, Google Slides, and even inside of those Wakelet collections, whilst they're answering all of these questions, they could attach YouTube videos, files from Google Drive, anything that they want. And the template really is built to define, certain topics so your students can answer them on the go. They don't really need to build or architect what their city is going to look like end to end. The template's sort of done the work to give them really important questions to think about. So this could work two ways. You could use this template to really, inspire and handhold your students, or if you want to go down the path not taken so often, you can actually just send them the topic, which is sustainable cities and communities, and ask them to build from scratch end to end, which would obviously promote a lot more thinking, a lot more research. But that process would be quite self-governed, and they'd have to obviously seek guidance from you. And if you're obviously not wanting to go down that path, the template will seek to guide them in quite a manual sort of way to sort of help them think about these important topics, which in the past from feedback we've seen has worked very, very well in challenges like these. So like I said, the template can be found inside, the template for sustainable cities and communities can be found inside the Sustainable Cities and Communities collection. And you can use this to sort of communicate with your students and get them to contribute their thoughts and ideas in a more structured, well-architected manner. So as you can see, we've really gone ahead and put some really cool topics for students to think about, and it's all very structured. So it should be pretty easy for them to get into and actually complete as well. And we have cited at many points in this journey, the Google form for you to essentially submit all of your collections. So I showed you at the very beginning in the how-to collection, if you scroll down, you see there's a Google form where you can actually submit your master collection with all of your students' works. And before I forget to mention, a lot of you are probably also thinking about the different levels. So like I said, we had 3 levels: SDG Hero, Legend, and Trailblazer. Hero is for 30 entries, so that sort of is the average classroom size. SDG Legend is 100 entries, so that sort of takes into consideration like a classroom, but doing all 3 topics or all 3 SDG topics we've outlined. So each student doing 3 collections or 3 answers to those topics. And then Trailblazer is 250 entries, where you have multiple classrooms or a school taking part in this challenge. And we've also done something quite unique with this particular challenge. We've actually gone ahead and created a sign up link. And I'll explain very shortly why we've done that. So we are wanting to sort of send across information that could help your students really make the most of this challenge, which could then directly impact curricular takeaway. And the sign up link will help you, sort of express your interest to take part in this challenge and help us send you information like the Sustainable Cities and Communities template. And, as I mentioned, very soon we'll be creating a template for zero hunger and affordable and clean energy as well. And you'll be the first ones to get it. So I'll be sure to say to sort of share the sign up link to the challenge, or if Reshma is currently listening to me, I'd really appreciate if you could share the Google for Education and Wakelet challenge sign up link, where essentially all the educators on this call can sign up and show interest for taking part in this challenge. And we will then send you across any important and relevant information for your students to make the most of this challenge.
You know, Tejas, we've been posting a lot of stuff in the chat, and one person calling from the chat said, "Can anyone explain about the challenge?" Which you've done throughout this presentation, but I put another link to the Wakelet challenge. But if you want to elaborate on that, and then Reshma, I'll get off screen and you guys can chat about it.
Stacy, so what was the question? Or Reshma, you can also answer me.
The question was, can anyone explain about the challenge? Maybe she wants to tease a little more about the purpose or something. I mean, I get it, Reshma gets it, and we're all in, but maybe explain that a little more.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'm happy to go over it briefly again. So, the Svg Trailblazer challenge is got three sort of subtopics underneath it, which is sustainable cities and communities, zero hunger, affordable and clean energy. The challenge is built on the premises of the actual SDG goals and topics that have been defined. And what we will be doing with these SDG goals is we've sort of created topics based on these goals, so your students can actually answer important questions in relation to how these goals can be achieved going forward. So an example is sustainable cities and communities. As I just said, your students can come, if you share this collection with your student, it's clearly outlined what the challenge is. You can watch a short video that sort of explains it in more depth. And then what we ask at this point is your students to either use the template, which I just went through 5 minutes ago, or sort of start building their own sustainable cities and build their own idea of what that could look like. So that could be sustainable housing, public transport. It could include so many topics like hospitals, schools. What do parks and green spaces look like in future cities? What do roads look like?
Tejas, sorry to interrupt you. So just to answer the question that just popped up about more details about what the challenge is going to be. So this is the document or the resource that we will be sharing on our Global GG website, where you can go back later, click on the links, and that will be more clear to you exactly what the challenge is all about. And if you have any questions, Tejas and Stacy.
I was going to say, Reshma, you are very engaged in this topic. Maybe could you maybe have a conversation with Tejas about it? Because I love your exuberance about this particular topic, and I would love to hear you two tease it out more. And Tejas, we are absolutely in awe of your presentation. Thank you so much. This challenge it's giving me goosebumps. It's very relevant. It's very timely. We see the issues that are happening globally right now. It's bad enough we have climate change issues, but now we have superpowers at odds with each other. So thank you for this peace-loving, environmental challenge and making our students realize that they have an impact on their world. So I'll let you and Reshma talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, so exactly, Tejas, this is very exciting that we are involving students now, because that's going to be our next generation who are going to take care of the universe. So involving them with these challenges. So even if we are calling it challenge, I believe this is exposing them to what's out there and how we can make it better, right?
Exactly. I really like the fact that you mentioned, they are the future citizens of the world, and it will be their responsibility to make decisions in, places of high power, which obviously will be, some of your students, some of the students of the teachers watching right now. They'll be making important decisions that will lay out how the world is structured, how we use energy, how roads are built, how hospitals are built, what cars are on the road. And they can only make these decisions if from a very early age they are educated on what's happening in the world, why these topics are important to talk about, and why it's important to have a more sustainable future. And yeah, we really hope on the back of this challenge that, like Stacey said, student voice will sort of really be empowered, and they can really feel that they can have an impact, because the truth is that they will all have a very lasting impact because they are the future.
Mm-hmm. And I love the challenge that you just showed about how the cities and towns should look like. So what are the things that they should be considering, and what are the exciting thoughts and ideas that they can bring in, keeping SDG in mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as soon as you enter the collection, which you will all see from the Google for Education X Wakelet landing page profile that Reshma has probably shared with you, if you go into the Sustainable Cities and Communities collection, you'll see that we've already outlined and defined certain topics. So that's sustainable housing, public transport, shopping and supermarkets, rubbish and waste, everything that's on my screen right now. Mm-hmm. And these are just starter packs, right? So these are just topics that you can get started off with. And what I mean by that is, if you think about sustainable housing, you think about, information like, what are the materials we use to build houses going forward? Are they sustainable? Have they been recycled? Can you do some research on, organizations that are, really investing money and resource into recycling and upcycling old, cars or old ships to actually use that material to build houses? There's so many cool and fun things happening in the sustainability world, and we really hope that these sort of topics that we've defined over here will help students, build a curiosity for these sort of issues and actually look into them, and then use those ideas that are being formed to form their own ideas, and maybe come up with something that none of us have thought about, which will be really cool.
Yeah, I love the way Google for Education and Wakelet is combining. So because I know some of the students love making slideshows, some of the students love making Google sites, some of them love it just to put it into the Wakelet. So giving them the whole modality, like, or any type of way they want to express their ideas about it. I think this challenge is going to be really fun for students as well as teachers when they explain them. So teachers, I would suggest, or I would request you to just go through the whole document, click on the links yourself first, understand what the challenge is, discuss it with your students, and make it kind of a project. I think for my students, it will be a fun project that maybe in a group or individually, whoever wants to contribute, you put them all together and then submit your challenge. I think it is going to be exciting.
Yes, so, and I also want to just pick up on what Reshma said shortly, quite briefly, but it's so relevant. We just named this sort of initiative a challenge because it's the most relevant way to communicate what we're trying to do and the sense of community and idea we're trying to build. But in fact, it is a project that you partake with with your students. So please don't think of it as this big challenge that we've set you all to do, and it's going to be really hard to do. It's in fact, like Reshma said, if anything, we hope for it to be a project that you can have a lot of fun with, and all of your students can have a lot of fun with, and also learn a lot from.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to you. All your stages, you can continue.
Thank you, Reshma, and I really hope that all of the information that's been communicated right now is getting all of you quite excited. Personally, myself and the rest of the team are super excited about all of the entries, and we can't wait to see what students around the world are thinking about, especially in regards to all of these topics and how they would answer these very important questions. So briefly, before I finish up, I just wanted to also say that and sort of stress to register on the Google link. So Reshma has probably shared that link, and Reshma, if you don't mind, I'd please request you to share it again. Your interest expressed through the registration will help us send you information that can make this experience a lot more fun, and the project can be a lot more useful. And as I said, just to go over the steps really, really quick again. And if you have any other questions, you can always get in touch with us. So step number 1 is create your Wakelet accounts through importing your students from Google Classroom. Then you choose the topic of your liking and share it with your students, or you choose all 3 topics. And then, you collect all of your students' work. So whether that be a Wakelet collection, Google Doc, Google Slides, or Google Site, whatever your students choose to create and express themselves via in a Wakelet collection, and then you submit it on the Google form that's attached over here. I think that is a lot of information that I've given you in a very short span of time. So I really, really hope that all of you have found this very valuable and can sort of get started on the challenge and make the most of it. If you have any questions at all going forward, you know where to find me. You can always email me on tejas@wakelet.com, or you see my Twitter handle right next to my name. So yeah, feel free to message me and I'll be very, very happy to answer any of your questions.
Yay, Tejas, that's fantastic. Reshma, I'm so glad that you were on screen explaining how it was relevant for you as an educator and as a leader in education, where you're training people and guiding a GEG. So great impact. What do you think, Gerardo? What do you think of this? Gerardo, what do you think about this whole thing?
I think it's a great resource for teachers and a great opportunity to build a team and contribute to our challenge for maintaining our earth healthy. And I am really impressed about all the resources that we can put in this Wakelet. That is a tool that we use every day. It's a daily tool for us as a teachers, and we love it. Really, 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 we love Wakelet. So it's great to get another way to take our students to the SDG goals, to understand it, and to apply in all their projects. We can link those goals with many subjects in our education. So a great job, TES. You are doing a great job together.
Yeah, great challenge. Wonderful. Or we're tweeting the bejesus out of it, so yay. Great job. Does anybody else in the chat have any questions? We're wrapping up a little bit early here. We've got plenty of time if anybody wants to ask any questions. Let's see, let me check. Now I asked that and I got to look at
that. I don't see any questions right now, Stacy, but I'm sure, Tejas, you might get a lot of questions when more educators watch this session and look at the challenge themselves. So I'm excited. I'm going to click all the links from the resource that we are going to share on Global GEG. And I'm going to involve my students for sure and talk to them about SDG and getting into this fun challenge. I would call it fun because challenge sometimes scares the kids. So it's kind of a project that they would be living into in a few years, probably.
I like that you said that, Reshma, because another thing about global problems is they can be catastrophically debilitating. If a person doesn't feel like they're empowered at all, if they feel like they have no impact on the things that are around them, it becomes crushing. And whereas having a challenge that is fun and engaging, it makes students understand at a very early age, as I'm sure you and Gerardo and we learned at an early age, we do have an impact on our planet. We can do things that positively impact the planet. And so this challenge is perfect. Yay. Oh, and we shared your Twitter handle, Tejas, on there so people can reach out to you.
Awesome. Please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And I'm really, really excited to see all of your entries. And please remember the deadline's the 31st of March. So I'm really, really hoping to see all of your.
And everybody likes earning swag. The swag was a big hit in the chat.
That's great. That's very, very good. Yeah.
Well, thanks again. Have a wonderful week and happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Jeez.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And don't forget to subscribe to Fifth Marathon in Mexico. Please, you should join. We will have really great presenters, and I think we can learn together a lot of things.
Yeah, starting Monday with Matt Miller. So everybody have a super week, and we're going to go with our outro.